Have you ever stepped back and looked at everything in totality and just thought, man, this is playing out way too perfect? That's what it feels like for ADA. That's what it feels like for crypto right now. And what I have to say is that although it feels too perfect, there has been a high level of consistency with this. And what this is showing us is that even though ADA is doing well right now and has been performing well since the early part of April, we're not even off the Launchpad yet. And I do want to talk about what I found here, which we have not discussed on the channel before. I do want to highlight something that a viewer was asking me about, and we need to have a discussion about phase 2. So if you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So I was trying to figure out the way I'm going to structure this video. First of all, ADA right now floating between 79 and 80 cents. It's about 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. US money is waking up, and I'd love to see us continue progressing as the day goes on with this green that we have in fact been seeing, but we'll see what the US trend decides to be. Now, what I will say is since the early part of April, this move that we're seeing across crypto and in terms of ADA isn't really all that surprising. And there was a big sign pointing to this. Now, this we have talked about before, and this is the Bitcoin versus the S&P 500 chart. And we have now 4 times during this market cycle gone on these breakouts versus the S&P 500. And every single time has been when we've made major legs in the market, when ADA has taken some nice legs forward. All right. For example, taking a look back here, October of 2023. Nice breakout, right? Saw this again in February, saw this again in November. And now, actually at the start of April, we started on this breakout, and lo and behold, that is when ADA and the crypto market have been, in fact, doing incredibly well. And what we've done around these times is actually kind of close our weekly candle around the tops of where this trend began, this downtrend, right? And then we extended well beyond that. So right now we're actually on our weekly chart at about that moment. Actually, we had weekly candles here before. So what it's showing us is we may actually have a lot of extension ahead. But what I do want to highlight is actually last market cycle, we were doing a very similar thing in 2020 as we were getting ready for our breakout. And then we had our major break, we had our retest, and then we just ran and ran and ran. So it's sure looking like right now we're very close to mimicking late 2020, like we've talked about time and time again, right? We're following what we did in 2017. We're following what we did in late 2020, which isn't surprising because we've kind of had delays due to a lot of this negative news that we've been dealing with. So there are some great things playing out on this chart. Now, before I get into a couple more things, I do want to show you guys this. Yesterday, the Fed actually bought another $8.8 billion worth of 30-year bonds. This is on top of the $34.8 billion that was bought earlier in the week. That's $43.6 billion in 4 days. They said, not QE. Guys, we're accelerating towards this at an insane rate. Interest rate decreases are going to be coming. You're going to see liquidity injections, and this is only going to accelerate things even more. And understand that this does in fact take time to play out, but we are very quickly heading towards this time. Now, what I want to talk about is actually Ethereum for just a moment. And the reason why is we have to go through this major shift in crypto, and that is switching from BTC season to Altseason. And the way that this takes place is you go from Bitcoin to Ethereum to large caps, which is what ADA is, and Altseason, right? So right now it looks like we are actually entering phase 2. And why this is in fact so important is when Ethereum is running, when Ethereum is doing well, ERC20s tend to run, ADA tends to perform its best. It attracts a lot of people from outside the space, and that is how adoption begins. And what it looks like we've seen is now ETH bottom versus BTC and start its climb. We've been waiting for this moment. Now, last market cycle, it happened way sooner. It was all the way back here in August of 2019. And I need to reference back to this chart here in just a moment. But what I want to actually reference is ADA dominance versus this ETH BTC chart. And I found something very interesting. And that was that right at about this time, okay, and this would be late 2020, we started to see ETH BTC really accelerate in a big way, but this was also the time where we saw ADA dominance start to surge in a big way. This all started to occur right as ETH made its hard pivot, right? Now we saw ETH BTC obviously bottom way earlier. It was a nice steady climb, but just as ETH really began to run, that's when ADA began to run. Now what we may in fact be seeing is a very similar moment. Maybe this is like back here. Maybe this is like September of 2019. I think that is a little bit off. And the reason why I'm saying this as well is if we look at this ADA ETH chart that was actually brought to my attention by a viewer, which I don't tend to put too much stock in. But what I found very similar about this is we're at a very similar time frame to, go figure, January of 2021. So what we actually saw during this time was kind of ADA drop, breakout, kind of pots around, and then our big extension, right? Here's the same thing taking place yet again, right as we're going on this extension. It's all playing out way too conveniently, way too perfect. And what this is showing right now is, guys, we're right here, right before this moment that ADA started to move in a heavy way versus Ethereum. We're right here, right before ADA started to make this big breakout to the upside, kind of finishing, I don't know why this is moving so slow, kind of extending on our inverse head and shoulders, right? That we have been talking about here for quite some time. We're right here, right before ADA starts to make these major extensions to the upside. Now, this isn't a guarantee or financial advice or anything like that. And I'm not saying that this has to play out this way, but you can't sleep on the fact of how perfect this is, in fact, all occurring. And this is where ADA makes some of those major legs. This is how ADA attacks new all-time highs. And I think this can happen a lot sooner than what people are expecting. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. I appreciate you as always. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below, but have a great day. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.